Ladies and gentlemen, we are back for day number 8. Today is day number 8 of solving these puzzles with a checklist so you have a technique in order to solve tactical positions like this one and the other ones we're about to solve. First things first, on to the checklist. We're going into it straight away. If you haven't looked at the other videos, we're basically going off of the checklist. There's three materials. We've basically never seen threats here. Maybe once up until 1200 in puzzles. We've been just solving our daily three puzzles, and we haven't seen a single threat so far. Maybe we'll see one today. But let's get into this one. So first things first, checks. I see one, two, three possible checks. Any other checks? None with the bishop. There's a capture here, capture here. We're gonna look into the check furthermore. This one is illogical king takes, or queen b2, and then the king takes also. So queen a1 is the only logical check. After queen a1, there's an only move, and when the opponent has an only move to one of your attacks, it's usually a great sign because most likely there's something there. So queen to a1 and then knight b1. We have to look for more checks in the position. I see one check, two check, and I see one more check with the bishop. And when I realize after queen a1, there's knight b1, and actually queen b2 or bishop to b2 is actually checkmate. So all we did is look at checks in this position, and since we looked at the checks, we automatically, after knight c3, knight b1, there's queen b2 or bishop b2. Both of them are mate, and this is actually just GG. So all we did here is look at one check, and then we asked ourselves once again, because it's a new position. In the new position, you have to ask yourself, any more checks? If there's no more checks, you have to look at captures, and if there's no captures, or if there is, you just have to scan them. So we scanned our options, and it was actually checkmate. So let's go back here. Let's continue. So once again, this is the classic. This is the classic after knight f3, the knight goes to e5, and we sack our queen. This is actually a very famous tactical sequence. All we do here is look at the checks. You should have this one memorized, to be honest, because this occurs in games a lot. This is a famous tactic. So after knight to f3, and then bishop takes g4, there's actually this nice little move, bishop to f7, but let's calculate it. Let's do this calculated. So bishop to f7, there's a check. Is there any other checks? There's no other checks in the position. Bishop f7, king only has one square because the knight guards f7 and the king can't take. So after king to e7, is there any more checks? We look at our bishop, the bishop can't pull a check. There's knight g6 maybe knight c6, but these moves don't look like it's mate because if knight g6, the opponent can take here, and if knight c6, the opponent can also take back on f7. So after bishop f7, I actually see one more possible check, and that is knight to d5. So there is three possible checks in this position, and after knight to d5 here, you realize that the knight is guarding the bishop. The knight covers this knight covers this square, and the bishop covers this square, so it's actually checkmate. So take, and then knight d5, and all of the squares are actually covered. So knight f6, knight d7, king e8, king e6, all of them are covered, and it's a clean tactic. Okay, this is our last tactic for the day. Once again, we have to look at all of the possible checks. One check and two check. Which one of them actually work? I'm not too sure actually, so let's calculate. I'm just gonna go based off of whatever I feel is intuitively correct. I low-key want to sack the rook first. This just looks more compelling to me. Rook to a1, king to a1. King to a1 is the only move, by the way, and I think the reason this is more compelling to me is because after rook to a1, it's one move. I don't have to calculate anything else. The king has to take the rook. So if the king has to take the rook, then I look for more checks in the position. I see rook to h6 is the only other possible check. And after rook to h3, the opponent blocks, but I take here, and that's one more check, and it's actually checkmate. Oh, wait, no, it's not. There's king to g1. Ooh, I miscalculated. I have miscalculated. Okay, so after rook to a1, king to h1, rook h6, and king g1, he doesn't have to sack the rook. What am I saying? It's actually not checkmate, and we lose the game. We just sack the rook for no reason. So after understanding that this does not work, we go into this check has been eliminated. So we go into rook to h6. After rook to h6 check, there's only one move. This is also just as compelling actually. So I was just yapping away, but rook to h6, and there's rook to h3. The opponent has to block. And after the opponent blocks, I have two possible checks. I can come to h1, or I can pull a check on h3. And when you realize that after rook to h3, um, rook to h1 doesn't work because after king takes, there's rook h3, and the king once again slides over to b1, and this is not winning. So it actually transposed. It transposed into the other variation we just calculated. This one. It's just a different move order. After rook h1 here, check, block, and then king b1. We calculated this and it didn't work. So rook to h3, rook to h6, rook to h3. There's actually one more variation, and it's this one. We take on h3, and after taking on h3, um, there's king h3, and we look at our final position here, king here, pawn here. We have to look for checks, and when you realize that there's a check on h1, the only check in the position is actually checkmate and game over. So king takes, and this is checkmate. Okay, so that's our three puzzles. Let's go into some puzzle survival. Okay, I don't know why it reset our daily streak, but it's fine. Once again, checks. We look at checks, and then the opponent takes. And then we come here. We look at checks. This is actually instantaneous checkmate because the knight guards and the queen guards these two squares. Once again, these first couple of puzzles um, are very simple because you look at the checks. So check. If the king goes here, we look for checks again. There's only one possible check, and it's checkmate. So this is indeed the solution. Once again, we look for checks. There's 1, 2, 3. This one doesn't work, bishop takes. This one doesn't work, king takes. And this one works because the bishop has to slide over, and it's actually checkmate. Once again, we look for checks. I see a correlation between the squares, and it's actually checkmate. Once again, another simple one. You look at the checks, and it's GG, why not? Because the rook guards the square, king has no escape squares, and the knight cannot be captured. You see how we just solved 7 tactics by looking at checks? And all of these tactics are rated, let me slide this down a little bit. All of these tactics are rated around 100, like it's in the first 500. Once again, check here, check here. Wait, I might have did this wrong. Okay, hold up. Oh, okay. Wait, boys. Okay, let's calculate. Let me not rush. Check here, check here. Ooh, this is a 500 rated puzzle. I'm actually I'm actually struggling right now, kind of, kind of. Let me not over exaggerate. But why am I not seeing this? Okay, boys, let me use the checklist. I'm so confused right now. I don't know why I didn't solve this in like 2 seconds. All right, hold up. Is there any checks in the position? 1 check, 2 check, 3 check. Um, what happens after this check? We have to assess this. This one is illogical, and this one is illogical because both of them get captured. So check here, check. This is the only logical check in this position. And after this, there's king to h2, and I pick up the bishop. This is the solution. Okay. And it's winning because we make it just in time to protect this bishop here, and we're up a piece. So this is the reason why it's winning. We move on. We look at checks. This is the only logical check. Rook to g1 is not logical. It gets captured. Here, queen g2, and check again, and it's mate. So we move on. Once again, the squares just correlate here. Check and mate. Once again, same pattern. Check and mate. Once again, same pattern. Similar pattern. Bishop guards the queen. It is a battery, and it's checkmate. Once again, we look at the position. Check, mate. We look at all the checks. There's one logical check in this position, and it's the only check actually, and it's checkmate because we promote one lot. There's 1, 2, 3 checks in this position. When you look at this one, it doesn't work because the queen takes. This one doesn't work because the queen takes, and this one doesn't. And this one actually works because it's checkmate. The queen guards everything. So, all right, we're gonna end at 15 today, and we're gonna come back tomorrow for some more. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, uh, if you look at your checklist, you're gonna solve these puzzles. There's no excuse. I think if anyone uses this checklist, they can easily hit around 2,000 puzzles, maybe even more. Not even maybe even more. It's possible. And you just have to do it in a systematic way. That's it for today. I'll see you all on day 9. Peace.